This is going to be on the final, is still ecology. So this is the only ecology lecture I can show. I had another one that I had to drop out, and then I'm going to jump back to plant structure. And even that's going to be relatively short because I shortened it down. I just said it'd be nice if you leave this class with at least a little bit of knowledge about the structure of plants, okay? Because they are important living things. All right, so this here is about energy flow of nutrients through ecosystems. Okay, all of plants are real important. Plants, algae, certain types of bacteria because of photosynthesis. Okay, because what does photosynthesis do? That's using the energy of light to combine carbon dioxide and water together to form organic molecules. Then those organic molecules, animals, heterotrophs can't do that. It's only photoautotrophs that can. And therefore, that sets the basis for all the matter and the energy that floats upward from that particular level. There are herbivores that feed on the plants, carnivores that feed on the herbivores, etc. And so only so much of this material can go through the system. And so ecologists look at this flow of energy and matter because it is matter, of course, but the important part is the energy content of that matter because all those chemical bonds have energy content. And then that's exactly what we need to regenerate our ATP through cellular respiration, right? So that energy is a one-way flow. Eventually it is lost. Everything that plants have fixed in terms of chemical energy will eventually be released into the environment as heat and lost as heat. The carbon dioxide and water, the material, the matter, is recycled, okay? And so the way in which ecologists look at this flow of energy is through what they call trophic levels, okay? Trophic levels, matter is recycled, and the trophic levels are defined by how the organisms in that particular level obtain their food, okay? Obtain their energy, the energy. So although I'm saying food, the important thing we're looking at here is the energy content of that food, okay? The energy content that has been stored in that food. And so the different levels, first trophic level, they're referred to as primary producers, okay? Now, this is equivalent to the autotrophs, okay? So we have both of these terms in biology, photoautotrophs. There are also chemoautotrophs, and they would be in here too, but I haven't talked much about chemoautotrophs. Photoautotrophs, that's the important ones. That's equivalent to primary producers. So we can use these, in a way, these are synonyms, however, they belong to different contexts. When we're talking about photoautotrophs, we're primarily looking at how they get their organic material and what energy source it uses. And primary producers were emphasizing the production of a product, okay? They're in different contexts, okay? All the other higher trophic levels in an ecosystem are heterotrophs, and they're referred to as ecologically as consumers, okay? Because they don't produce anything, they only consume. Heterotrophs cannot make any sort of organic molecules. They can only obtain those organic molecules from some other source and use them, but they can't make it. This is why these are called producers, because they're the ones that put together the organic material. All right, so the second trophic level consists of what are called primary consumers. Now here, down here with primary producers and photoautotrophs, those are pretty much equivalent terms, but here when we get into the higher trophic levels, producer or consumers, they're not just only, they are all heterotrophs, but we have different levels of heterotrophs. And so these are referred to as primary consumers. They are the herbivores. These are the ones that feed on living plant material. They're directly eating the plants, and they're primary consumers. Then the third trophic level, it consists of what are called secondary consumers. They're carnivores. They're the ones that eat the primary consumers, the herbivores, right? And then there's also a fourth trophic level, which would be tertiary consumers, okay? Notice here that we have primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, but just producers at the first trophic level. There's no primary, there's no secondary, they're just producers. And so these are carnivores that would eat other carnivores, right? Now, one of the things that's happening here is that with the primary producers, yes, they're taking a certain amount of solar energy and creating organic molecules. Those organic molecules are building blocks for building the structure of the plant. And it does grow. However, some of that material is also broken down in cellular respiration because the sun isn't always there, but the plant still has to stay alive. So at night, even leaves have to use organic material, break it back down to carbon dioxide and water to keep their ATP. They can't die, they don't go quiescent at night. Furthermore, even with the plant, it's the photosynthetic part is the leaf. And sometimes a little bit of the epidermis on the outside, but there's still a lot of parts of the plant body that is not photosynthetic. And therefore, they depend on cellular respiration to regenerate their ATP, such as those cells that happen to be in the roots, those cells that are in the middle of the stem, okay, where sun does not penetrate. And therefore, my point being, this initial product, photosynthetic product that the plants fix, they also lose a lot of it already due to their cellular respiration. And therefore, there's less available that's in the plant body that's passed on to the next trophic level. And furthermore, with the next trophic level, yes, they're obtaining organic molecules, they're containing organic molecules, but they still are they're still undergoing cellular respiration. So some of that energy is lost at that level. And then so forth. Each level, the energy is being lost, right? So there's only so much to go around. All right, so now it's rare that you ever have an ecosystem that has more than 4 trophic levels. And the reason for that is each passage of energy from one trophic level to the next entails a loss of the material, loss of the energy as heat to the environment due to cellular respiration. And therefore, it gets less and less of it can be passed up, and eventually there's not enough to support a 5th level. Now, in addition, these guys are lucky, detritivores, or decomposers, because they can feed at all levels, right? Because there's parts of the plant that are not consumed, but they die, okay? For example, deciduous plants will lose their leaves, becomes part of the leaf litter. That is fed on by these decomposers. Furthermore, consumers, not everything they consume can be digested, and therefore they would leave feces, which still has organic matter that detritivores can feed on. And furthermore, those animals will die. And a lot of times their bodies now are become detritus. This dead organic material is just called detritus. That's what the word stands for here. And therefore we have that other community that can feed on material from all trophic levels.
So these are like earthworms on the ground?
Earthworms, yes, but primarily this is primarily, I mean, earthworms would belong there, but fungi and bacteria. Yes.
Since consumers technically produce species which can be consumed, aren't they technically producing something?
Who is producing something?
Consumers that like release.
They don't
feces.
produce anything in terms of energy.
But if the feces are being eaten by detrivores.
Well, okay, that's for the trinivores.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't
Okay,
count.
but nothing's being produced.
Okay.
It's only being consumed.
Oh, okay.
All that organic material originated from plants. Okay. Now we might have a carbon dioxide that's taken in by a plant. It's fixed into glucose, and that might be what is the fate of that carbon dioxide. It might become part of a carbohydrate that a herbivore will consume, and that carbohydrate might be passed on from, or the carbon dioxide, the carbon part, might be passed on from one level to the next, or it might be released back into the environment as carbon dioxide to be fixed again, and so forth. But nonetheless, the energy content, even though, and as we go up here, even the organic content, the biomass, is decreasing when we're looking per surface area, okay, per square meter. Both energy and biomass are decreasing. Okay? So this is mostly fungi and bacteria, but there's other things like you mentioned, earthworms. Could also be some nematodes. They belong to that area as well. But fungi and bacteria are the real big winners when it comes to this level. Okay, so if we look at trophic levels, we can also envision what is called a food chain. Okay, a food chain is the passage of material from one trophic level to the next in a straight line. Okay, so here we have the primary producers, plants, and then the primary consumers, which are herbivores. Primary, so a rabbit, grasshopper, they're feeding on plants. Snake, secondary consumer, might eat the rabbit or the grasshopper. Red-tailed hawk, that looks like a red-tailed hawk. Tertiary consumer eats a snake. Okay, so this is sort of a straight line process, moving organic material and energy from one level to the next. And of course, these all leave waste material, sometimes their own bodies, for the detritivores. So the detritivores are getting energy and organic material from all levels.
What's the quaternary consumer? There is one.
There is usually never. It's be a very, very rich ecosystem, but things run out. Okay. Now, instead of looking at this as a food chain, real ecosystems are much more complex than this, because we could have some consumer that is feeding, like a tertiary consumer may not just only be feeding on secondary consumers. They could eat also at a different level, okay? And furthermore, so the real complexity is something that you call a food web. So food webs are interconnected food chains, okay? And so how this energy and matter gets passed through an ecosystem from trophic level to next trophic level, it is rather complicated, right? And as I said, a certain type of species, like humans, for example, we feed at many different levels, okay? All the way down to the first trophic level, second, and tertiary, and even the quaternary, level. We feed on all of those. Okay, now studying the energy flow through ecosystems is really, really difficult. But back in, I think this study was in the 1990s, I'm not sure when it was, but it was an isolated little ecosystem in Florida called Silver Springs. And they did a lot of work and calculations for the energy flow for 1 year. And so this is what they came up with. From the amount of sunlight, and notice that the units here is in terms of kilocalories per square meter per year, okay? So we're talking about limitations within a square meter, okay? The ecosystem itself was much bigger than that, but comparing each trophic level, we're looking at the amount of energy that is available in a square meter, okay? Out of the amount of sunlight coming in, most of it is just simply reflected, okay? Not fixed. 1.2%, and I don't expect you to know these numbers, okay? Was fixed by the plants as what is called gross primary productivity. That is how much of the total amount of sunlight was captured and converted into organic material. Now this organic material, of course, serves as part of the plant body. But as I said earlier, the plant is also undergoing cellular respiration to stay alive. And therefore, some of this gross primary productivity is lost, okay? So if you subtract from this the amount of energy that was used for cellular respiration, then you have what is called the net primary productivity. This is the plant body that's left over, okay? Notice here that there's quite a bit lost, because the amount in this ecosystem, about 20,000 kilocalories was fixed, but as far as net primary productivity, it becomes the plant body, drains the plant body, it drops down to 7. So more than 50% of the energy is lost. And of this, only 3,000 kilocalories per square meter is passed on to the next. This is the herbivores. And of course, plants lose their leaves, or the plant dies, and therefore some of this energy gets into the tridivores and decomposers. But if you notice here, each time, of course, we go from one level to the next, the amount of energy that can be passed on becomes less and less and less, okay? Because they all are respiring, okay? Cellular respiration, all that is being lost as heat. And in the end, when you take up the whole energy budget, you notice down here that the gross primary productivity that was fixed, 20,000 kilocalories per year per square meter, is what ends up being lost in the end. So all the energy eventually gets lost, okay? Now I've made a little diagram here to make it just a little bit more complicated, because there's several things that go in here, but the basics says the same thing. So I'll just go ahead and put it all up there.
So everything gets lost as heat?
Yeah. So you see, this is the first trophic, second, third, fourth trophic level. And of course, they're all losing energy as heat to the environment from cellular respiration. They get passed up, we've already talked about that. But we also have here another deal, the tridivores, bacteria and fungi. They're fed on by microbial grazers. And of course, some of these up here can feed on the microbial grazers, okay? And of course, they're losing energy as heat. And then we have micropredators that can feed on the micro grazers. And so this is just a similar type of scheme as what I pointed out on the previous slide, except for I've made it a little bit more complicated with this particular.
What are examples of like micropredators and micrograzers?
What's
Like,
that?
examples of the micro.
Okay, a micropredator could be a spider. Okay, you could put it here, or you could also put it over here. You know, it could go in either place. But this is just looking at the smaller things, primarily the things that happen in the soil. Okay, primarily there. But still, it's the same type of scheme. Now, you look at, now this is schematic. You look at the energy per unit area, okay? Square meter, or whatever it's defined. It is for the energy, this is called the net production pyramid. It can also be called the net energy pyramid, because here it's looking at the energy content. The amount that was fixed by primary producers in this particular scheme. Notice it's not in kilocalories, it's in joules, all right? Because I got this from a different textbook and they're using joules instead of kilocalories, but they can be converted, all right? So notice here, and this is in several studies, it's approximation of what they find, because it really depends on the particular ecosystem. But notice the amount of energy fixed. This is net primary produce, that only 10% of it gets passed on to the next trophic level. And of that trophic level, only 10% gets passed on, and only 10% gets passed on. So 90% of the energy consumed by one trophic level is lost to either the tridivores or to by cellular respiration. So the amount of energy that's available in the organic food that's being fed on, this is called the rule of 10. And it's an approximation. The study I showed you at Silver Springs in Florida, it comes close, okay? But real life situations can vary from this. Other studies on ecosystems are showing pretty much the same thing. This is one of the reasons why we frequently in ecosystems don't have a fifth trophic level. There's just not enough being passed up, okay? Now, think about this. What in North America would be a top predator that belongs to the fourth trophic level?
Here?
Mountain lion?
What?
Bears?
Mountain lion?
Mountain lions? What did you
Humans?
say?
Bears? Not bears?
Bears?
Humans?
Yeah, well, humans, yeah, we're probably king over everything. But anyhow, we kill everything, but nonetheless, it's, yeah. But, mountain lions, bears probably so, wolves, okay, they would be top predators. Now, they're pretty big animals, aren't they? So how can they be supported by such a little amount of energy coming up from down below?
There's less of a population of like the bigger predators compared to all the other ones.
They do what?
There's less of the bigger, like, of the tertiary consumers.
That is true if you talk about numbers, but their size, number of cells, maybe not.
They eat more?
What?
They eat more?
They eat more. Well, yeah, they have to, but they don't have a whole lot to eat there. So how can it be possible that you have these wolf packs?
They eat more than just the tertiary consumer. They eat more than just.
No.
Sec-
I mean, they don't have a whole lot to eat. That's very little.
Do they just like sort of?
Hibernation?
This pyramid is based on the energy flow from level to level per square unit, so that we can compare it all. So if this happened to be a square meter, we're talking about square meter, square meter, square meter. Do wolves just only feed off of square meter of land?
Hunt.
No. What you find is that you go up this pyramid, that the ranges, feeding ranges of the animals have to become broader. Okay? Down here, you have plants that are in a square meter and they never move. But you go up here, these guys, because of per square meter of land, little less energy is coming up, they have to have a bigger territory in order to harvest enough energy from all of the square meters to be able to live. And then as you get up higher, wolves have humongous territories, you know, because there's just too little energy that's being passed up through trophic levels. So it's sort of as far as if we put up here a pyramid of territories, we would find an inverted pyramid, okay, in terms of territories. Okay, but here, this is, and this is the outcome of the biomass. No, this is biomass, not energy. Biomass is grams of organic material, okay? This is from Silver Springs, once again. So within a square, and this is based on square meter, okay? So the producers, the biomass when they weighed it, 809 grams per square meter, but you notice it decreases, decreases, and decreases as you go up trophic levels, okay? And this is based on square meter. Obviously, these top carnivores, they're not feeding on this energy that is available in 1 square meter. They have bigger territories, okay? And that's the only way they can exist. Now notice that, and so this is based on biomass. When I say biomass, that is the gram weight of organic material that's there, okay, in the body of the organisms. And that's the biomass. But it also has a pyramid shape when we're limiting it to a fixed unit area. In aquatic ecosystems in the ocean, the pyramid is inverted, okay? It's inverted in marine habitats. Now this is just the same figure as here, just only come from a different book. Actually, yeah, it's from a different book. The numbers are exactly the same. This is also Silver Creek data, Silver Creek, Florida data, the biomass pyramid. Now, if we look at another type of pyramid, is population size pyramid. And I don't know what these are based on. I'm sure that that is not a square meter. It's probably a larger area, all right? Much larger area, but what the unit is, I don't know. But still, the comparison here is from trophic level to trophic level, we're still looking at the same unit of area. So with the primary producers, there's a lot of them, okay? These are herbs, shrubs, plants that happen to be in that area. This is the number of individuals, regardless of species. Okay, so we're not dividing them to different species, but all plants happen to be there. When we go up to the next level, the primary consumers, the herbivores, the population numbers drop down, okay? Likewise, when you go up here to the secondary consumers, it's almost half of what was there. And then we drop even more drastically for the top carnivores, okay? So the top tertiary consumers, in order to exist, they have to get their energy requirements from much larger area. And to go to the next level, usually that's impossible. It's very rare that we have 5 trophic levels in any ecosystem. Because then even at the top level, the amount of energy that we passed, go back to the energy, if our rule of 10 is correct, if we put up another level up here, how much energy would be there?
0,
1, okay? And the area of territory they would have to go over in order to glean 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 would be just impossible, okay? Just doesn't work. Okay, that's all for that one. I just wanted to show that mount, and now we're going to go to plants. Any questions?